It was Ben Sweetland who said, "We cannot hold a torch to light another's path without brightening our own." Well, in the case of veteran broadcaster, author, and spiritual explorer Wendy Garrett, it was the flicker of a nightlight that opened up her path and led her on a journey that has forever changed her life. In her book, Talking to Nightlights, Wendy documents her adventure of learning to channel messages from a source she simply calls the energy. It was Wendy's unconditional desire to understand our connection to this vast universe that led her down a winding road of learning and enlightenment, and ultimately a sense of acceptance that we are forever linked to the multitude of energy that surrounds us at all times. Wendy, today we're going to play role reversal. Just a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of being on your great show, Conscious Living, which is part of the Empowerment Radio Network. And we had, shall we say, quite a curious incident take place during the course of our conversation. So I want to set this up for our listening audience so we can then segue into a discussion about a process called channeling. And it's a process that you're quite adept at. So here's the deal. As you know, we were going into a commercial break during your show and about to discuss the phenomenon of animal reincarnation, which is a subject that I cover in my book, Conscious Musings. And this topic, just a little tidbit, the topic is based on an experience that I had with my now former cat Paws, who I feel has been reincarnated as my new kitty named Clover Paws. Actually, two very curious things occurred during this little time period during our show. First, the initial spot that aired was about a technology that will allow you to find your lost cat. Interesting. So that in and of itself, shall we say, was curious. But then after what we in the broadcasting biz call a stop set, after that had ended, you had remarked about the synchronicity of the commercial and what we were about to talk about, essentially how I found my lost cat. And then, Wendy, you said the following: "I don't know, Enid, is it synchronicity?" Now, I want to stop there for a second to let our listening audience know most of you do not know, probably none of you, that my first name is Enid. My middle name is Alexis. I've been going by Alexis since the broadcasting biz, actually since I was about 19. I don't know, Wendy, whether you realized what was happening or not. Of course, I had emailed you. I listened to the show probably a half a dozen times to make sure I was hearing what I thought I was hearing. And indeed, you said, "I don't know, Enid, is it synchronicity?" Well, needless to say, everyone, this spurred or spawned a lot of curiosity for me. So I immediately contacted you, Wendy, and I said, okay, what's going on here? And there's something going on here. I learned another side of you, that you indeed are not only a brilliant radio broadcaster, but you're a channel. And so I wanted to talk about this amazing journey that you took to jumpstart your work as a conscious channel. And it's very well documented in your book, Talking to Nightlights. So maybe we can start with that, now that I've given this long intro, about how nightlights triggered this journey for you.
I am so humbled. I really, really appreciate the way you're putting this together. And I appreciate your thoughts and the way that it's resonated for you, because as a person who's got a story to tell, the only thing you can do is put it out there and hope that maybe somebody connects and that it reaches people. And I didn't know I had a story because I was just normally, like you, a broadcaster, journalist, reporter. I was exploring other people's stories, right. And that was what I did. And when this event happened for me, I was in between jobs. I'd been doing my whole career path, for, I don't know, at that point, probably diligently for at least 10 years, and beyond that, hoping something was going to click, and learning how to tell a story, how to write, how to create, what to pick up on, and what might spark an interest in the listener. And so that was what I was doing. In the meantime, we were rehabbing a house, and there was this big, old, beautiful house that happened to be the home as we went through. It was in real disrepair. The home of a minister, and it's right down the street from a church. And so it had this wonderful energy under all of the debris and just the trash. And so as we're redoing this, I noticed we had finished, for the most part, everything was all finished, and I had for quite some time been aware that I journaled and I wrote, and that I had been doing that. I've got pictures when I was a teenager of me writing down by the creek. I lived in the country. I would take my journal down there and I would write. I don't know what I wrote. I I was quite entertaining for me at the time. I know at some point I was writing stories. Yeah. I was going to, at one point in 8th grade I was going to be Stephen King, and then I wrote a story and I'm like, holy cow, because then my stories became so real. I began to see parts of how that could work, and I thought, no, that's way too dark. I'm not going there. And so I had experiences that were also intuitive as a child, and I knew that world was real. I knew there was more to what we are than just what we can see, because I had my own experiences, and a couple of them at least were life-saving experiences. So this kitchen light was an automatic nightlight, which means it comes on and off given how much light it's exposed to. It started blinking when there was no shift in the light outside, and so I began to watch and see if anybody noticed and see if it was just me. And it would do it in front of other people too, but they didn't notice because they weren't really paying any attention. And I thought, good grief, this is extraordinary. What the heck is going on? And that's when I decided. I called my mom, and she does a pendulum dowsing. She'd been doing it for years, so she's refined it, and she doesn't jump to conclusions.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah. So I was like, Mom, help! And so she and my an aunt came over, and we did a session with the nightlight and watched it. And I watched it respond to the animals. And it would perform, it would blink and flicker for the animals as well. And if I would sit in a certain position, then it would blink and flicker. This thing was I was just so caught up in this when it first started happening. I would wake up at 2 in the morning and see, and get to the end of the bed because I could see to the other room and see, is it blinking? Oh, yes, it's blinking. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And so it was cloud 9. It was cloud 9. But I figured out from the session that I would need to learn how to channel to bring it through. And I wasn't really aware that I could do that. And I had read books on channeling. I had an encounter. My grandmother also helped me at one point, because when I tuned in a meditation session and said, am I connected? Are you here? And they said, we are here. And I'm like, we! Ah! So I shut it down.
Of course.
We!
That's it. Be careful. Be careful what you ask for. You might get it. That's what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, that's enough. I know. Yeah, Grandma. And Grandma said, just go slow. Just go slow. Thank you, Grandma. But so since then, that we is my own chorus, my guardians, my guides, my helpers. It isn't. So that's what came of that. But that was back in the 90s when I was first beginning to consciously try and put pieces of my puzzle together and develop my spiritual connection. So I explored. I did the tarot. I did runes. I did, and now I do it's like a matches where I just throw the matches and see how the energy, how I read it.
Sure. Yeah.
Each person. All of these people that are out here writing these tremendous books and leaving these tremendous breadcrumbs for us are doing their own thing, showing us we each have the way of connecting. And when I started with the night lights, then this other energy came in, and I was able to do. And if you're familiar with the Seth books, or
we're going to go there next. You're packing a lot in. Listen, I want to stay on this for a minute. I want to stay on the nightlight thing for a minute, because there's so many dimensions to your story, Wendy. But I want to stay with this, the idea of a nightlight being what we would call a conduit or impetus for this journey you were about to take. The phenomenon of electronics and electricity as a conduit for communication with the non-physical realm, it's well known in parapsychology research. Had you already been aware of this? Had you made this connection, or were you familiar with this aspect of research at the time this anomaly started to occur?
No.
Wow. Okay.
No,
Okay.
no, I was pretty clueless at that point.
Really? Okay.
It was 1997, and I really hadn't gotten into, even though my mom, I mean, if you listen to my interviews now, I'm going back and reconnecting dots and re-exploring and re-investigating and reminding myself, oh my gosh, this stuff was already out here. And even when I wrote the book, somebody said, well, if you're not familiar with this, then this is, this phenomenon isn't exactly new. And you would go back to Madame Blavatsky.
That's right.
Blavatsky, and I had read, trying to think, I knew Edgar Casey was there, and I'm also intuitive, so these promptings were being given to me all along.
Okay.
It wasn't, I had read Ruth Montgomery, I did read Whitley Strieber, I wrote the Return of the Bird Tribes, Ken Carey. I had a lot of help, but as for the scientific research on it, I didn't really explore the research. I did want to be at one point a paranormal psychologist.
Did you really?
Wow.
Yeah,
but it was in L.A. and I couldn't get there. And it was really funny because I reconnected with Valerie Hunt, who was at one point. She was the leader of that I think department at one point, and I thought, oh my gosh, but I didn't go that direction because it was too far for me to make that leap. In the meantime, though, I did my own research, and when this nightlight thing happened, yes, it is electronic, and we're always, each of us as creators and in our own being, we have this electrical connection.
Absolutely.
The book, The Body Electric, is all about that.
That's right.
Barbara Brennan, she talks about it with her energy medicine. These things are available to us, but I didn't expect it was going to happen to me.
Of course. Well, that's always the case. And like I said, again, be careful what you ask for. And if you're really sincerely asking, Wendy, you are going to get those answers. And so, you talk about in the book, one thing I love about the way you articulate your thoughts in this book, it's with such humility. It's with such a sense of reverence for this amazing thing we call reality that's so vast that admittedly we don't understand. And I love the way you were honest with yourself and ultimately with the readers in that process of it's okay to not know. But furthermore, you had the courage to continue to explore, and it responded to you. I want to talk about how this kind of moved into a process called automatic writing. So you had the nightlight was sort of the impetus, we'll say, if I'm understanding correctly. And then you kind of went into this process of automatic writing. Had this been something that you had explored prior to the nightlight, or was it because of the nightlight anomaly that got this started for you?
I think with that automatic writing, I remember doing something and writing in my journal before the nightlights. I had written this little piece, what will it take to shake up your world? How big a catastrophe must happen before you are willing to re-examine your life? It was a paragraph like that, and it was probably in 91 or 92. And judge your progress by the nature of your catastrophes, because what happens with a catastrophe is we have to respond. There's no doubt, no question. Something has to change. And if we change before it gets to that level, it won't be quite so difficult. But usually, if we're not connected, or if we really have to redirect, that's when the catastrophe comes in. And so what they were saying, or what this message, this guidance for me at that point, was kind of a precursor and saying, as you progress, you won't have to have these big upheavals. But even when it is an upheaval, understand something must change. And so